So here we are in module 5, part number 2. Interesting part of this class is one of my favorites because we all have so much stress in our lives. Finding ways for us to manage stress is so important in our lives. And we talked about in the first chapter or the first section of this, get this out of the way, is what is stress and how does it affect you? It's all about managing the stress. That is a key for our healthy lifestyle. We talked about what we needed to do. I gave you all that stressors worksheet, how you can identify certain stressors and then put down how those stressors affect you. Because that's important part of figuring out how we manage it is identify those stressors, the regular ones, and we'll talk about the ones you're not going to know about when they happen, but they're going to be there, and you're all going to have some of these in our lives at some point. So you got to have ideas on how to manage these as we go along. So this is part 2 of the stress management. It's how do we manage that stress? There's actually many tools you can use. We're just going to talk about a couple, about how we manage these stresses, how we can prevent unnecessary stress. That is also an important thing to manage. So getting into this, reviewing that, brick 3, part of our stress management, implementing strategies that will help you manage and reduce your stress response. That is the key. We're all going to have it, just how we handle it, how we manage it. You talked about in part 1, the stress response cycle. You react emotionally and physiologically to all stresses that hit our lives. We can go right to an acute stress response. We can go right to phase 2, or we can end up in phase 2 after we manage phase 1 and get that acute stress response tampered down. Then we go into phase 2. Now, what do? How do I stop the stress from taking over and overwhelming me and causing confusion or paralysis, which is your third phase? That's when our whole life pretty much gets shut down temporarily till we find a way to manage all these stress. There's a couple ways we do this. Get this up out of the way. Is we have major stresses, and the only way to remove yourself from that situation or implement a stress reduction technique is to meet that situation. Our number 1 stress thing we have in our life is fight or flight. Your body will make a split reaction to what you're capable to handle at that particular moment. Some days you may be able to handle a lot more stress with less response as others day. Others, not so much. There's also the minor stressors. You just know that something's not right. And it could be anything. It could be financial, it could be health, it could be something that something's just not right. So that's when we institute our first management that we talked about last week, is that RAIN principle. It's a simple technique. It's very widely used in different names, different monikers, but it all does the same things. Because what is a major stressor to you maybe not be a stressor to others. It could be a minor stress to you and maybe a major to others. So stress management is a life skill that we can be improved upon with mindful practice. Just going through certain particular breathing techniques will lower your stress level down immediately. And that's just step 1 of a stress management technique. Again, the RAIN principle. Recognize your feelings for what they are. They're just feelings. Allow and accept them no matter the pain or the joy they bring. Investigate why you're feeling them, and then nurture yourself. Remove judgment and be okay with it. Now, these 4 may not be needed on any minor stress. You may just go to RNA. You recognize that you're under some stress, and that's it. You just know that you're under some stress. And allow and accept those feelings. Say, okay, now what do? How do I handle it? You don't necessarily need to investigate why you're feeling them because they're happening to you right now. And to nurture yourself, remove new judgment, may be something that will come down the road, but not right now. So it basically depends on the stressor, where you fit in this stress technique, which I pretty much use it more for those minor stresses. When you get a major stress, it's not going to be as successful. But again, this is just one technique of many that we will cover. Again, a stress response cycle. One, acute stress response. We talked about it last week. What are they? It could be rapid heart rate. It could be profuse sweating. It could be difficulty breathing. It could be less than that, just minor perspiration. It could be just feel a little uneasiness in yourself, maybe a little queasiness. It could be your stress response. And again, it changes for individuals, and it changes by the severity of that stress response. Getting stung by a bee, yeah, that can cause a stress response, but it's not maybe a life-threatening stress response unless you're allergic. Then it could be. So it all depends on your personal situation and how you handle it. Again, phase 3 overwhelms and takes over your life. Confusion and or paralysis occur. You get so physically, biologically out of whack that you can't function. You find yourself just confused, can't think, you don't know what to do next. You just sit there in some type of paralysis. And people will say, shake you, are you okay? Are you okay? I've seen it many times. I've done that for people. Just said, hey, are you okay? And they may have just been right now going through an acute stress response for whatever occurred in their life. So you never know. Now here's the stress response. Who's going to go into acute stress on this? You know, if your house is on fire, where is that going to put you right off the bat? Right now you're an acute stress response. You don't have time for a RAIN procedure. You know what your feelings are. It's fight or flight. You're going right to get out of the house, call the fire department, do what you can. So that's a boom right to the top level or level 10 stress response for most people. So by learning about that and picturing it in your mind, going through that, you can lessen that response. You can also try to avoid that response by, maybe you've heard this, a clean home seldom burns. That is true. I've been in many clean homes that have never had fires, and I've been in so many wrecks of homes with stuff scattered everywhere, just overwhelmed with just things in the house. Things don't get maintained in that situation. People don't have the capacity to make sure their home is running good, their furnaces are good, that they're not burnables near a stove, near your fireplace, near a furnace. Things happen. So clean home seldom burns. Also, a way to not necessarily prevent, but to prepare for that is, you always heard, I did when I was a kid, home fire drills. We practiced a home fire drill so that we knew what to do in case we had a fire in our house. It also is important for emergency services to know that you know what to do and you went to a safe spot in part of your home fire drill. So that's just a simple stressor. Your house is on fire. Pretty major for a lot of people, not so much for other people. Here's a picture. Here's the stress response. This was me in charge working at the firehouse a few years back before I retired. Where we rolled up on this house. As you can see, it's fully involved. Major stress response, right? Major stress response. All over the place, what goes through your mind. But thankfully, we prepare for these things. We prepared for these things in the fire service. We had standard operating procedures. We pre-planned these things. We knew what to do. Everybody had a job. Everybody did their job. We concerned for the inhabitants' life and safety, our firefighters' life and safety, and third, property loss prevention. So that's pretty much an order. Let's get the people out safe, keep our people safe, and protect as much property as possible. But you'd not know that if you just walked up on the scene and you come into that house and you don't know if there's people in the house or not. It could cause some serious stress response. Trust me, it happened to me many times in the fire service. The more you get exposed to these types of stresses, the easier you are to handle it. And yeah, you're not going to most likely run into this in your lifetime, but you might. Here's when you might happen, a minor stressor, just a little car accident. what's going on in your mind when this happens to you all of a sudden. It's a car accident. Maybe there's an injury. Your reaction, acute response, symptoms. You could be short of breath. You may just get a phone call. You're not in this accident, but you may be in the back seat. You may be driving. Apply the RAIN technique. Recognize your feelings. Allow and accept those feelings. Yeah, I'm in a car accident. I'm okay. I checked out. I'm going to be good. Understand that. Yeah, you should feel upset. You just was in a major car accident, and be good on yourself. Accept that you're just human and you're going to have all kinds of emotional feelings that occur if you're in a car accident. Again, you may be able to, maybe it's a phone call you get, and you can just sit down, calmly think, apply a breathing technique. Okay, I just got a phone call. My daughter, brother, son, whoever it may be, was just in a car accident. They're okay. But you're going to be upset. So you're going to sit down, calm, apply simple box breathing technique or other breathing techniques that we will cover more further in detail down the road, and accept those feelings and recall your plan and work it. It's something that may be something that's new to you. It's like, who has a plan for these types of incidents that occur in their life? Something you may consider. Phase 2, you're in the accident. Call EMS. If it's a family member that's in an accident, calm reassurance. You can make arrangements to help them however you can. You can call insurance and you can have a plan. Again, these things you cannot predict. They can happen at any time. A car accident you're in, car accident you're not. How are you going to handle these? I'm sure many people have had situations similar to this, if not this exact situation, occur to them. Think back how you handled it. Think back what techniques you used. Did you just go all in phase 1, acute stress response, find yourself trying to calm down? You may be more able to handle that situation. You may want to run right to stress 2. Okay, what do I do next? Yeah, I'm in a car accident. What do I have to do? Take care of it, get it done. Your ability to handle this will dictate where you go in the stress response. So again, that's something we learn and we nurture as we go along, is how we're able to handle those situations. You may get this in your life. This is the major stressor. You get that call in the middle of the night. Someone you know was in a major accident and maybe passed away. What's your reaction going to be at that point? That's a major stressor. I've had those phone calls. They've turned out okay, but they're stressful situations. I credit a lot of my training in the fire service to my ability to be able to handle this, because we saw it so often. We saw major car accidents. We saw, critical patients. We saw people who did not make it in situations. So that prepares me able to handle this a little bit better than, say, you or your family. But it's something you can talk about, have a plan in place. That car accident, maybe with the death, you go right to phase 1, 2, and 3, hit all at once. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to breathe. You may be out of breath. You may be all the way at emotionally a number 10. So how do you get through that situation? Many people handle it a different way. Based on my training and my good mother's guidance over the years when I was younger, is to be prepared. I was in the Boy Scouts. I dry run through these scenarios in my head and on paper. I have specific documents in my files, in my drawer, in my safe, for what to do under an emergency situation. God forbid something like this happens, of what people can use to get them through. So I pre-plan these things to some extent for these major incidents to happen, so that if and or when they ever do happen, I could take some stress off of someone else. If it was me in the accident, or if it was somebody else, I know what to do to handle that stress, to walk myself through step by step. It's a sheet of paper, step 1, step 2, step 3. It doesn't have to be a lot of things. It's just to get your mind back in the loop of figuring out what is important that needs to be done, so that you can get through that stressful initial situation, which is the hardest part of it. Brick 4. So now we've had those stressful situations. We may have been able to use a RAIN principle to calm ourselves, start some active breathing. Again, I have right now a half a dozen scripted stress response management techniques that people can use. And I will give them out one at a time. RAIN is actually the first one. It's using the RAIN principle. There's others for other scenarios, other abilities. Some people move right to say step 4 or 5 in a stress response management tool, and other people can't. And then it's really no need to have 20 different plans for all these different incidents. If you have a basic methodology, how you think that's set up towards you, it's easier for you to work yourself through it, or work yourself through the initial response. But brick 4 is learning how to prevent unnecessary harmful stress. Again, think about that. What is unnecessary harmful stress? All stresses are unnecessary, and some stresses are more harmful than other stresses. So if we have the ability to prevent a lot of these stressors from occurring, we put ourselves in a better situation to not go right to, boom, phase 1 acute stress response. We may come in at step 2. Okay, I'm good. I know what to do. I can relax. I'll take it through my mental checklist of things to do, and I'll get it done. I'll handle the situation. Plan for stress. It's no different than your nutritional plan. It's no different than your fitness plan. If you have a plan to handle stressful situations, you're going to be better at it. You're going to be better at cooking if you have a good cookbook. You have good working knowledge of how to put meals together to meet your nutritional needs. You're going to be way better at your fitness plan if you have an idea that you're doing exercises that meet your goals and your needs and necessities. So again, it's a plan. It's no different than any other recipe. The homework is there for you to identify possible stressors and then pre-plan stress responses for those stressors. Now, obviously, that opens a whole can of worms because everybody has different stresses. What's stressful to me may not be for you, and vice versa. Excuse me, a quick drink. The whole idea is that when you have a pre-plan, again, it only may be two or three things that you can remember that you need to work towards to get you out of that cycle. It short circuits that stress response. It won't make you. It'll give you the ability not to go right to that acute stress where you're out of breath, you're in total meltdown right off the bat. 1, 2, and 3 are all happening at once. You're feeling the stress, your body's reacting physiologically. You don't know what to do, and you get in that comatose paralysis situation where you're just confused and you don't know what to do. But by pre-planning, walking through what your plan would be for those situations, you're giving yourself the ability. It may not be a recognized ability that you can pull out of your drawer and say, I can do this. But at times of emergency, of times of stress, we're capable of way more than we think we are. And that means handling stress situations for yourself or someone else just as good. Just think about that South Yukon fire that I was in charge of. When we rolled up on that, there was kids running around the front yard. We didn't know if there was any kids in the house. We had to stop, work our standard operating procedures, take it step 1, step 2, step 3, work the problem, and got ourselves into a situation where we were able to handle that fire in a short order, made sure nobody was hurt, nobody got hurt, everybody went home after the fire. So that was an acute stress response that we were able to train for, that I was able to train for over years to give me the ability to handle that without going myself into a paralysis state where I didn't know what to do when I'm managing 20 people on the fire ground at the same time. Again, planning prevents paralysis. You can't prevent the event, but you can manage your response to the event. That's the key. I'm going over these things a few times just to make sure you understand how important these things are. You create a new stress management habit. It's such as creating your own RAIN principle. It may not be those particular four, but it may be something that you understand in an acronym, maybe that you could develop that helps you work yourself through that situation quickly, such as the RAIN principle does. But it's no different than any other habit, folks. We got to start a procedure. We've got to get ourselves used to it. We got to work it, make it a standard way of handling whatever it may be. You know, we cook a roast the same way that we do it every other time. We don't necessarily grab a totally way off the wall recipe to cook something when we have a good one that works for us. So find what works for you and just keep working at it. That is your RAIN principle. That is the way you manage it. And I can help talk to anybody about that, how to go about doing that. But that's something that I use and I've used successfully for the over years. Think about this situation, folks. This is a minor stressor. You're pulling down the road, boom. You see a bunch of water, the road is closed. What do? Now, this is a stress nightmare, road closure nightmare. You may be in an unfamiliar location. You may be out of town, or you could be at home in your hometown, and it's an easy fix. You go down this road, turn left, around that corner, go past the gas station, and you're right back on track. But you're thinking, oh, I'm going to be late. I got to pick up the kids, the grandkids. All these things are all part of your management of that situation. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't like seeing those road closed signs unexpectedly when I'm traveling down the road, because then I'm going right into, okay, now what do? You know, what am I going to do? Here's what I do. If I'm in a road closure nightmare, boom, I gather myself, pull off the road. Okay, how am I going to get to where I need to go? I'm in an unfamiliar area. I may be out of state, could be anywhere. Could be just a couple cities over. And a storm comes and knocks the road wires down, closes the road. I totally recommend people not 100% rely on those travel apps on your phone, the MapQuest and whatnot. Have a road atlas in your car as a backup. Pretty up-to-date road atlas, local for your city, state, or a national road atlas if you're traveling around the country. But having these things as your plan B, your plan C, when your recollection doesn't get you where you need to go right away, is the way you handle that minor stress situation. Pretty easy to handle. I don't get myself as wound up as I used to be, and I used to get pretty wound up when I'd come across a road closure. I'd make a turn around a corner and like, oh, geez, now what do? I'm 5 minutes from class. I got to be there. They're waiting for me. I know. I hear the voices. I know what goes on. So, major stressor. We don't want to have this happen in our lives, but it will happen to many people in their life. Maybe a loved one suddenly stops breathing, no pulse. They're on the ground. Do you know CPR training? Do you know how to manage that situation? Do you know the local emergency response number? What do you do? Folks, nobody wants to have this happen, but I would totally suggest you find the time at some point, sit down and think about what you would do with this situation. If you spend a few minutes to mentally prepare yourself in case one of these situations do come up. These are very stressful situations. It happened to me with my wife. I understand. I was better prepared than a lot of people based on my training. I had CPR training, I had EMS training, boom, 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 to handle the situation. So it's something you can manage. It's something you may not expect to ever happen in your life, but for a lot of people, these types of things are going to happen. So what are your stressors? We had this stress checklist that we had the last session. I put out a couple of in there. Number one, worrying if you're going to have enough money to pay next rent. Worry about your old clunker car and you fill in 2, 3, and 4, or 3, 4, and 5. Figure out what is your response. Is it a not much comfort? You always find money. If you put these situations together and you put these numbers down, and you'll see what are the areas, what are the things that you should spend some time sitting down thinking about what you can do to prevent that stress. If we're prepared for it, just worrying about it, if it ever happens in the future, is not going to happen, because you're going to have some rudimentary steps just the basic things to do to get you going and get you off that acute stress response and get you to handle the situation so that you feel better about yourself and you can help other people. It's just like we talked about in the foundation for this class. You have to be able to care for yourself to care for other people. Self-care, handling your stress response, is self-care. It's getting yourself prepared to help other people as well. So it's an important skill to learn. It's an important thing to do. So take this, this drill here serious. Write down your lists. Find out what your stressors are. Find out how stressful it puts you in. Is it a really number 4, really stressed out, sweating, heart racing, can't sleep, feel nauseous? Or is it not so much discomfort? These things are important, or they can be important to help you manage these things in your life. Along that line, financial surprises, auto breakdowns and repairs, maybe some health emergencies of your own. These are things that you can plan for. Financial surprises. Do you have an accurate budget at home? Some people have no budget. Some people have very intricate, spelled out budgets that they stick to pretty good. You can set up auto notifications if you have bills due at a certain day or time. You can automate payments. These are all things to help you manage a financial surprise that occurs. Maybe you have access to additional income, be it from retirement accounts or from family members or from additional work that you have available to you. These things, if you have in your pocket, in other words, you have these things set up, you're going to feel so much better when a financial surprise hits. When the furnace blows up in your house, and it quits working, it's the middle of winter. What are you going to do? Could be very stressful in the wintertime. Could be very stressful if your air conditioner blows out, if you're lucky enough to have central air or window airs, and it's going to be 90 plus degrees like we're going to have later on this week. These are financial surprises that can and will cause you stress, but there's some things you can minimize stress a little bit to prevent that major acute stress response. Auto breakdowns and repairs. What maybe were your purchasing priorities? Did you purchase a vehicle or car for reliability or because it has a sporty look? These things make, these decisions have consequences in your auto possibilities. Do you do scheduled maintenance with the repair shops? You have your oil change, you rotate your tires, you check all the other fluids, your coolant fluids, your brake fluids, all these things. These are going to help you prevent a unexpected auto breakdown. Part of that is doing weekly checks. People go to the gas station, hey, check under the hood. Back in the day, when the agents or the people at the gas service station would come out, check your tire pressure, check your oil level between oil changes. Doing these weekly checks are going to help you prevent an unnecessarily breakdown and all that stress that you can prevent. So just think about instituting some new habits. Maybe you find someone that's going to be able to keep up your scheduled maintenance, keep up your weekly checks on your automobile. Again, this is just an example of a stressor that you may have, that you may not worry about, or it may be something you worry about greatly. Health emergencies, your personal health. Again, take care of yourself. Self-care is going to help you care for others. We went through our plan as part of the foundation and our fitness first to find out about ourselves. Your foundational self-discovery scenario we went through. We had the forms. We try to do regular medical monitoring. We have an annual physical. We get our blood work. We developed a fitness plan, fitness first. We schedule reassessments for both medical and fitness. And we try to eat better. We develop a healthy nutrition plan. Again, part of a healthy lifestyle. Any one of these can cause health emergencies and cause you advanced stress that you're maybe not prepared for. So that's a simple scenario, quick discussion about that. Let me stop the screen sharing right now. Actually, I'll leave it up. I'll just bring you all back in here. Okay. Question and answers about stress management and stress prevention. I would hope you have some for me. Wow, you're good. All right, no stress in our lives. Again, I gave you a couple examples of mine, things that I worry about, that I pre-planned for, the major medical situation in a family, major financial situations, have a plan B, be prepared, but it's not going to prevent it. All we're trying to do is manage the stress, manage our response physiologically, emotionally, which can be even more devastating than physiologically, to any particular stress. So think about it.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
I know that my sister in DC, she recently lost her husband. Unfortunately, she had a checklist of everything to go over when he passed away, so that she was prepared, like you were saying, to do each step along the way that she had to get through.
And like I said, I've got a folder in my desk drawer here. I got a folder in my safe, and I got a file on my computer. So I have 3 separate, and all my family knows where to go to get them. So boom, in case of emergency, it's just in case of emergency packet. This is what you should do. And I try to spell out, like, go to call the bank, close this account, move this money. All these things. Call the insurance companies. All these things. I'm sure she felt so much less stress going through that horrible situation, having that simple little plan for her done up.
Right.
And that's the key. You don't want to have that stress get so bad that now you get into that phase 3 where you're paralyzed, and now you have all kinds of worse physiological responses. Your blood thickens. When you're under stress like that for a long period of time, your whole blood chemistry gets awry. You have way higher cholesterol that your body will carry because it's worried about handling the stress. All your sugar levels will increase. You'll just get your biochemistry all out of whack. So by being able to manage that stress, you prevent that from occurring. And that's the whole key with stress management is prevention over management, but you got to be able to manage it if and when it does occur. But somebody came to me the other day, and actually it was a friend of my wife was saying that somebody she works with, that she's got to get out of the situation she's in because everybody around her is really negative. They have all kinds of family friction, this and that, in a house with a bunch of people, and driving them physically, emotionally, to their wits' end. And so it's a situation where you've got to be able to get out of that situation, fight or flight, remove yourself from that stressor. Living under that stress, as this person does, is a big health detriment to them. So they need to do what they can to get themselves out of that first off, and then worry about, what they're going to do after that. So key point, very good that somebody has has a response or has a packet like that. Good question. Anybody else? Gail, Denise, question? Oh, okay. That's all good. It's all good. There's been a revised, I met with Jennifer the other day. We're going to be meeting in August, both of them through Zoom. Not going to be in person in August. And you're going to be getting an email explaining the change. I'm kind of accelerating the rest of the program. Rather than going a whole nother month on fitness, we'll go 1 week on fitness for the first week, say the first Monday of the month. We'll have a question and answer Zoom call the next week. The third week, we'll go right into attitude, motivation. So we'll handle 2 of the cornerstones through the next couple of months to get us down the road a little bit quicker, because we have the base of it now, so we can institute I can give you fitness plans. I can give you more positive attitude generating tools. I can help you with motivation. We get into nutrition, right into it. We know why now, what we need to handle these, why we need to put these cornerstones in place. We'll get right to building those cornerstones back up. So we'll get through it a little bit quicker. We're still going to go after we get through this stress. And next month, as the email is going to tell you, we're going to do a quick review of the first four cornerstones, so we get a quick idea of what we set in place, and then go into the next section, set some more cornerstones, get into more detail about how you can individually apply those cornerstones into your life and your situation. And then we'll move on to review that again. And then the final part of the program is, now what do we do? Now we've got this plan in place for better nutrition, for better fitness. We have our good foundation and plan. We know how to handle stress, and we can keep our motivation up there. How do we continue that on the rest of our lives? What things you need to put in place? What groups you need to join if it's something like that? What type of people you need to keep close to you that you can keep you motivated and keep you going? It's all about those types of details that helps you maintain this lifestyle for the rest of your life. And that's the whole key. I purposely set this up in this manner, is to give you time to digest and figure out how you can apply this to your particular life and your situation before we went on to the next step. You may find when we get to the stress the next time through that I have a better option for you than the RAIN principle for handling stress. When we get into specific breathing techniques, what do you do for the first 2 minutes? You get the news of a horrible situation. It's a high stress in your life. The first 2 minutes are pretty important to get and capture control of your heart rate and your breathing before you get hyperventilated, before all the other physiological things get awry. It's to take control of your breath. So there's certain techniques we can do to get you out of that acute phase quickly as possible. So these types of things we'll be able to go through in more detail now that we have the foundation. So you're going to get an email from me and from Jennifer explaining that, how we're moving forward. The rest of the schedule for the rest of the program has been set, so we know what we're doing the rest of the way. Even though she only puts it out in that newsletter every 2 months, we have the rest of the program set up with dates, so we know when we're going to finish this up. And we'll wrap it all up. We'll go into that, putting the roof on it, getting that lifestyle maintenance in place, and then we'll put this thing all together in a big digital file for you, and I'm going to send it on to you so you'll have it all finished and completed at your disposal through my website. It'll be there so that you can review it at any time. How's that sound? Like a plan?
Sounds like a good plan.
I'm big on the plans. I come to my exercise class. I got a plan. We got plans for everything. So,
hey, Tim, are you teaching Functionally Fit tomorrow? Because I didn't see it on the calendar to register.
I'm pretty sure I am. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I'll go back and check.
Calendar doesn't mean I'm not going to be there. Remember that. Let me open up my calendar. I show it tomorrow on the 25th. I will be there.
Okay. All right. I'll go double check on the website.
Okay. Dale, you have any questions?
No.
Okay.
I'm starting to increase my protein. I didn't realize how deficient I was, and it's giving me so much more energy.
Good. Nutrition is the fuel that keeps us going. So we have to make sure we're getting enough of the basic elements in our life. I would recommend, if you find yourself hitting a plateau, something where, the energy kind of wanes off, and you don't want to keep eating more protein, to find out really, exactly how much you should be eating. Go to that calculator, do the basic calculation that we talked about, and then maybe see a nutritionist and give them a quick half-hour discussion on what you could or couldn't be doing to keep your nutrition going forward. Sound good?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, folks. Very good. I will get this thing copied, and hopefully it is taped the whole program so that I will have it up on the website very soon and on the YouTube channel for your review. tell the people who weren't here, they missed out on a good class to go check it out. So other than that, we'll let you go.